Forrest, it's time for the mystery grab bag. This is my favorite part of our show, and we're going to wrap it up here with some odds and ends. These are news stories that I know you find funny or I find interesting, or there's good lessons learned that you can get out of this. And the first one we want to talk about is Capcom, and they got breached last year. We actually do threat briefings here on campus for our employees, and we talked about it, and originally we had thought maybe the attribution piece was tied to something in Japan where they're headquartered. And I know you thought it was Chun-Li or Ken or Ryu that was Street Fighter 2 behind
my vote
Capcom
was
breach.
M. Bison.
M. Bison, yeah.
M. Bison
But
or Mega Man. Dr. Wily. There you go.
Capcom's a video game company. They had a breach. They actually released an update. And we will always try to do this with all of you in the audience. We try to talk about the breach, and then if there's an update a couple months later, we'll try to give you those details. And it's nice when companies do this, when they get closure on their incident response, because it gives us some insights on things that we need to be thinking about and talking about. And in this situation, it was a VPN.
Yeah, I love reading postmortems of breaches. Like there's no higher concentration of good security advice and best practices and things to look into than in a postmortem. I mean, that's where you're going to find all the nitty gritty details of what went wrong, what to fix, how to prevent it. You know, it's an absolute gold mine. And I think any organization that publishes their postmortem,
Mad respect,
100%.
Yeah. And in the Capcom breach, so it's tied back to an old VPN that they were getting ready to reach end of life. They were doing a tech refresh on their VPNs, and they found out that, that's how the threat actor got in the environment. So really cool to actually have that information. And we'll include the link to this story as well that you can read about the actual press release from Capcom. So
yeah, the VPN piece, definitely there was a lot of scrutiny of that, over work from home, COVID, all that. So it definitely makes sense that that's, what would have been leveraged. And then as a result, that additional scrutiny, resulted in new CVEs for VPNs coming out. And it's always a juicy target. And again, kind of going back to the earlier call out, if you're reusing passwords, that's a wonderful target for password sprays.
Oh, yeah, big time. And that kind of gets back to what our next story is about, which is now talking about threat vectors. And when we talk about threat vectors, what we're talking about is pathways or doorways that bad guys use to try to get into your environment. And it's always important to know what are the trending threat vectors and pathways that these guys these threat actors are using to get into your environment. So 1,000% increase in the use of PDF files involved in phishing attacks. This came out of Palo Alto's Unit 42, fantastic team. So from 2019 to 2020, they released, they noticed this Unit 42 folks, they noticed a dramatic increase, 1,160% increase in the use of malicious PDF files. And what they're saying is that bad guys are using that more and more and more as the pathway to get malware or into your environment. So if you know that and you could be on the lookout for it, that's what helps, from a user awareness perspective in your environment.
Yeah. One thing that I'm kind of upset about is just how pervasive PDFs have become. I mean, everything is a PDF now.
Right,
I mean, your utility bill, like any invoice, like stuff that shouldn't even be a PDF is now done in PDF. I mean, there's no end to it.
Well, this specific and it's really the most common form of PDF phishing is using a lure where they use the CAPTCHA. So I want you to be aware of that, folks in the audience, is that if you get a PDF and it looks suspicious and it's got one of those CAPTCHAs where you've got to enter in you got to choose the image or you got to write in some data like that, that's the stuff you got to be on the lookout for. They were actually using it when you click on the continue button. They're saying that you're seeing more and more threat actors that are doing that. Click on the continue button. It'll link you out then to the site to continue the fun experience with the PDF, but that actually connects you to a malicious site. So
yeah, and just the amount of stuff that's allowed in PDFs is, oh man, it doesn't stop. You can load remote content, you can run JavaScript. I mean, there's just so much that can be leveraged, and it's a great way to get it in front of the user and get them to click a link, oh, this video is paused, click this, or, just any number of avenues that's just very easy to get a user to interact with it.